Assalamu alaikum students. How are you? I hope you'll be fine. Open your books, page 52. Today we'll study poem The Listeners. In this poem, The Listeners, a traveler comes to knock on the moonlit door of a house in an unknown place. The traveler hopes to keep an unknown promise by coming, but no one answers his knocks at the door. Though the poem describes a host of phantom listeners inside, and he lives. The poem describes the anxiety and dislocation of modern life, in which people are alienated from natural world. Now, the words to know: champed, chewed, cropping, biting off and eating the tops of plants. Descending, came down, ferny, covered in ferns, green flowers, parts, etc. Hearkening, paying close attention, listening carefully, neath, underneath, perplexed, baffled, confused, phantom, a ghost, or something that is imaginary, not real. Sill, a shelf-like ledge below a window. Smooth, hit hard, pounded. Spag, a very old-fashioned way of writing. Spoke. Spag, a loop with a flat base that supports the rider's foot on each side of the saddle. Stirrup, a loop with a flat base that supports the rider's foot on each side of the saddle. Turf, grass and the surface layer of earth held together by roots. Turret, a cylindrical tower rising from a building. Explanation. First stanza. Is there anybody there? Said the traveler, knocking on the moonlit door, and his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest ferny floor, and a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveler's head, and he smote upon the door again a second time. In these lines, poet is telling us about the first act of the traveler. The traveler knocks at the door and asks about the inhabitants, but there is no answer. Nature has represented by the horse placidly munching on the grass and bird frightened by the man's disturbing clamor again and again. Second stanza. Is there anybody there? He said, but no one descended to the traveler. No head from the leaf-fringed sill leaned over and looked into his grey eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. But only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the world of men. In these lines, traveler asked again and again about the presence of people, about the presence of inhabitants, but the traveler feels that there was a ghost, which is a phantom listener. He is listening but not answering, and quietness of moonlight teasing him a lot. Stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an ear stir and shaken by the lonely traveler's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved cropping the dark turf beneath the starred and leafy sky. In these lines, poet is telling us about the traveler. That traveler lost the courage to stand on the dark stairs. His blood stops moving in his veins. He is paying close attention to his own voice. His horse is eating the tops of the grass without any tension under the leafy sky. Such things fills his heart with strangeness. for he suddenly smote on the door, even louder, and lifted his head. Tell them I came, and no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spake. In these lines, poet is describing about the traveler that he suddenly hit the door. A loud sound was produced. When he lifted his head and looked outside, again he says that he has come out. Who? Who has come out? A phantom listener, but no answer, which increases his fear. Every word which is spoken by him frightened him a lot. Next is fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house, from the one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, and sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone. In these lines, the traveler feels he's echoing by himself, only one man, in this strange place, awakening. Who is? He is traveler. He goes back to his goal when he doesn't find or doesn't get any kind of response from the ambiguous natives of the house. Only the plunging hoofs can be listened, like a sound of iron on the stone. Thank you.